let's get into the trade deadline, the situation, all of the things with one of the guys that I hope you all see every single day, bringing MLB Now to you on MLB Network, 9 a.m. Pacific time every day. The host here on the River Islands guest line is Brian Kenny, joining us here on Willard and Dibs, 95.7 The Game. Brian, thank you so much for coming on. How's it all going on the show over there at MLB Network?
Oh, well, loving it, enjoying ourselves. It's been a fascinating season, so good to be with you guys. Well,
it's great to have you and kind of kick around what's going on with what I'm sure you realize is an unfortunate and surprising season for the baseball team here in the San Francisco Giants. The report that came out earlier the week, the high-priced guys are on the market. I don't even know what the ability is to do that. Two of them have a no-trade clause. How would you describe the likelihood that any of the three don't finish the year here in San Francisco?
Well, I don't know. I think what you're saying is true. It's going to be tough to move any of them. I mean, who wants those contracts? That said, I'm not saying it's time to deal. I think the more I study the game and the more I see the current dynamic, the more I think you've got to keep adding and keep playing and play it out. I mean, that trade was made last year. What's the long-term plan? You ready to ship him out now? He's barely played for you. He's played for 1 year. We're talking about Devers. And the other guy just signed up. So you've got to have more, courage of your convictions to see a plan through.
I understand the convictions part of it, but Raffy Devers plays first base, and now they've got Bryce Eldridge, who also is going to play first base. So you can toggle them between DH and the first base spot. But do you think that Devers ultimately is kind of a block for Bryce?
Yeah, he's going to be a block forever. He's a block when you got him. That the contract was bad. As a third baseman, he had some value because, even though he had bad defensive metrics, he could play there. I've seen him play a decent first base now and then, but, he's already 29, and now he's moved to the very end of the defensive spectrum. So, he's an issue. It was always going to be an issue.
Brian Kenny with us, MLB Now, MLB Network. Hey, Brian, we're going to give you a buzz right back. There's a little bit of a bad connection going on there. A little bit of a clickety-click there with Brian. I want to make sure that we're hearing what he's saying, so we're going to try to reconnect with Brian.
I love that, and interesting when you think about Devers, Adames, and Chapman, and there are other names on this list that we can get into. I don't know if we need to hit him with the minutia, but
Brubaker,
right? Luis Arraez, number 13 on the list of possible targets
for sure.
Yeah,
I mean, to his point though, you look at the Giants' situation, and maybe it's just because they've won 2 games in a row. We always do this. Like, one win makes you think to yourself, I mean, should we just wait? And that's like, there's plenty of time. The trade deadline is a ways away. All right, let's reconnect back out onto the River Islands guest line with Brian Kenny, MLB Now, MLB Network. All right, Brian, good to have you back. And obviously, looking at this whole situation, would love to kind of expand on that. It's one thing to look at this year, but Devers has 7 years to go on his deal, and young Bryce Eldridge looks like the absolute real deal at age 21. Do you think, like, over a period as long as 5 to 7 years, there's room to put both of them on the same team?
Well, there is. I mean, it might be the smart thing to try to get out of it, but you're going to end up, I would believe, if you tried to trade Devers, you're going to have to pay some of that contract down. That would limit your flexibility. So no, I'm not enamored of the player, or the contract. He's when I said it at the time, it was very unpopular to say, he's a top 20 hitter, maybe a top 12 to 15 hitter in the league. And he's kind of viewed as a superstar. Right now, how high is his stock? It's extremely low. So as far as hitting the market and having other GMs take him on and his contract, I don't see that being a very good market right now.
Do you think that the ballpark can be part of the issue here with Raffy Devers? Earlier this year, he was last among qualified players in OPS. Is that something that maybe wasn't thought through out here to bring in a left-hand hitter like that?
Possibly. I mean, you can be knocked down a little bit, but you can check things through the process stats, the StatCast stats to see how hard is he hitting the ball, how much is he launching the ball. I think there's something to it. You go from Fenway Park to San Francisco. There's definitely you're going to take a hit offensively, but there are other issues here. I mean, he's never hit really, league average, and that's where he's been between last year and this year.
Brian, ESPN did a top 100 MLB trade candidate ranking situation, and Devers and Adames didn't even make the list. But Matt Chapman is very high on it. He's got a no-trade clause, but that's a conversation. How do you feel the league feels right now about Chapman?
Well, I think he's still an elite glove, and he's hitting above league average. So I think also he has nice StatCast stats, and GMs do love that. Especially if you can make them work on the field. So I think, right, his stock is good. His hitting is good. He's had a quick bat, hits the ball very hard, a lot of swing and miss in the swing, of course, but the elite gloves makes him attractive. So, I think other teams will look at him and be very interested.
And you don't think it's too cost preventative that he still has 4 more years and $100 million, taking him all the way to where he's 37?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I thought that contract was rich at the time. So, no, that's a hindrance. You might end up paying that down. Again, the surprise when Devers got traded is that the Red Sox were able to trade the whole player and the contract. That was the surprise. Normally, you trade someone who's just signed that deal, who's more of a slugger, doesn't have, isn't someone who's a shortstop or a good fielding right fielder. You're going to have to pay some of that down. The fact that they didn't was a surprise. I don't think other clubs are going to want to do that.
Brian, we get that it's not even a half year in, but what's your view on how the Tony Vitello experiment is going?
It's way too early to know. I like some of his ideas. I like that he brings energy to it. I think now that barrier between college and the major leagues has been broken down. I know there's some resentment out there. I'm not watching him day to day, so I can't tell you pitch to pitch and how he's handling his staff. I know there's been some, issues here and there, small things that, he's gotten caught up in. But I kind of like the energy. I kind of like a guy with new ideas. And, I think learning on the job is something that's just going to happen.
Yeah, Brian, I wonder if I ask it this way, though, because I know you're there talking to a lot of ex-players. And so it's way too early to judge the whole situation. But in general, what's your view on Major League Baseball players' willingness to sort of play at the height of their career for a guy that seems like a test case, if you will?
No, I think I don't think there's such a huge barrier between the college game and the major leagues. There used to be. I don't think there is now. I think a lot of guys could manage in the major leagues. So I don't think he's lost. Again, if I was closer to it, maybe you're closer to it and you see that he's making fundamental mistakes out there. I haven't seen that. And, I think if you're open to new ideas, I like some of the things he's tried, like early on just having an idea that you could bring your closer in earlier in the game. I like that. I don't think the manager is the issue.
Yeah, and I don't know if he is the long-term issue or the long-term solution, but do you think it makes more sense if you have a younger manager with less experience to also pair him with a younger, maybe more inexperienced team?
You mean not with a veteran team?
Right.
I don't know what the best mix is, and I don't know. Look, it's an entire organism that you're dealing with there, from baseball operations to coaching, through the manager, president of baseball operations, general manager, everything else. So it's the entire organism. Carlos Mendoza for the Mets looks awful right now. He looked great year one. Alex Cora was considered to be a top 5 manager in the game, and he just got fired in April because there was issues there. I don't know what the magic solution is, or if there's friction, or if it's a veteran team with a young guy. I really don't know that. But I look at it's much more of roster decisions, just like with the Mets and Giants, same thing. The bigger issues are with the roster and the talent that's there.
Brian, how much of a look have you had a chance to take at Bryce Eldridge early on here in his career?
Yeah, no, not an awful lot. No, I've just seen the numbers, and I've just seen things in highlights. So no, I haven't had a close look.
I mean, I wonder what your sort of umbrella view or just the baseball buzz is, because this city is absolutely this is the guy everybody's been waiting for. It's only 100 at bats in, but the OPS is 959. He's knocked the strikeout rate down already. He's taken walks. Like, he looks like a seasoned big leaguer at age 21. And I'm wondering what your advice would be to fans who are losing their minds. Like, we think we got a Hall of Famer already, Brian.
No, I think you're allowed to think that now. I did essays over the last 2 weeks, and they're both similar in the new super kid that is emerging is a polished, ready-to-succeed super kid. I'm going to kind of paraphrase Dan O'Dowd, who is on our panel on MLB Now all the time. He's a 15-year GM with the Rockies, and he said something to the effect of the baseball ecosystem has never been more connected. So these days, look at the young players that are brand spanking new to the game. I mean, Nick Kurtz, just hit the game last year.
Yep.
But Kevin McGonigal, Travis Bazzana, these guys at Ryan Weatherholt of the Cardinals, these guys come up with plate discipline. They come up with contact skills. They come up with high baseball IQ. And so the kid that comes up and has that, like, first 100 ABs, as you're saying, you're thinking, oh, what can you really tell? Well, no, you can tell an awful lot in the Statcast era, in his plate discipline, how well he controls the strike zone, how hard he hits the ball, what pitches he hits, what he doesn't hit. So, no, the new kid hitting the majors, this isn't 1983. You know, this new kid is polished and ready to go.
And to what do you and the experts attribute that?
Oh, it's the wave of technology, analytics, also having the language. Someone had put this in my head. I don't want to steal things, but hey, the language exists now, top to bottom, about controlling the strike zone. So it's no longer like, are you able to drive in runs? Can you drive the ball? It's like, hey, what's your bat plane? You know, how are you controlling the zone? What's your contact rate? What pitches are you missing? There's instant feedback. A kid can get 1,000,000 reps. The other part of this is that also making it more of a meritocracy, where if a kid is willing to do 1,000,000 reps, it doesn't matter how tall he is. You know, look, there's room for Connor Griffin, who's 6'4", 225, who has blazing speed. You know, he's got Jimmy Rollins' speed and Cal Ripken's size. But there's room for Kevin McGonigal, who obviously is major league ready from the first time he steps into the batter's box at the major league level.
Brian, speaking of inexperience, but having that youth be ready to go right when you get the job, does that extend to the front office? In other words, how are you assessing Buster Posey so far?
No, it's very much up in the air, and I know he came in, with a real shine, just like Derek Jeter did. You know, this is a blue chip player, a Hall of Fame player, but the skill set is vastly different. Now, I'm watching what he did, and I didn't look askance at it. I thought, okay, I liked Willard and Dibs. I thought Matt Chapman was a quality player, and I really thought maybe there is something to these not the simplistic view of clubhouse chemistry, but having guys who are, winners on the field. And there's something to that. It's not just cliche. There are guys who behave as winners, and there is something to that. But that said, that's taking on the Devers contract, taking on the player at that time, which was, universally applauded. I thought that could come back to haunt you. And look, clearly it's already an issue already. I don't want to make it more than it is, but it's an albatross already. So you go big, you can make big mistakes.
Well, and I think, Brian, you're being kind to leave out the fact that the young left-hander they traded is now going to be an all-star for the Milwaukee Brewers this year. So, I mean, is it too early to say that Buster did a bad deal there?
That's a disaster. No, you're right. But two clubs didn't see it. That is what puzzles me.
Yeah.
We talked to the Brewers pitching coach, and yesterday, and he was saying, no, he goes, I thought he was ready to go. We saw a few things. We tightened up a few things. He was good to go. But the Red Sox had Kyle Harrison. You guys had Kyle Harrison, and I'm stunned. Not only that, but also a former first rounder that Tibbs. Yep. That's now in the Dodgers organization. It's not just that, hey, he showed promise, but maybe he's finding out that, oh, wait a second, that's the 13th overall pick in a draft 2 years ago. That's a blue chip piece. It's not time to trade that guy. So yeah, there's a lot of things as I broke down that trade yesterday that I said, there's a lot of bad evaluation going on here. And obviously you have Red Sox and Giants who whiffed on a guy who is one of the top, 15 pitchers in baseball right now.
Yeah, the Red Sox won the Devers trade and then immediately lost the trade by sending Tibbs with 1,000 OPS to the Dodgers and sending Harrison to Milwaukee. So it's like picking up a wallet and realizing there's no ID and there's $1,000 in it, and you just throw it in the garbage.
Yeah, again, when I look back, what really hit me studying it was Craig Breslow actually, he was criticized for trading Devers. He was excoriated, actually, in Boston. This is brutal. You got to get this guy out of here. He has no touch. He has no feel. He pulled off a spectacular trade, but then he destroyed it by trading two of the key pieces that he was gifted from the Giants. So, yeah, there's a lot of miscalculation there. By the way, by two former players. Craig Breslow played in the major leagues. Buster Posey excelled in the major leagues. He's a Hall of Famer. So, those are the guys you would think wouldn't whiff on that, because those are obvious baseball-y things. It's not some wonky thing that a guy is finding in a pitching lab somewhere. These are big things. That's a first-rounder. That's a top pitching prospect, and they didn't see the value in those players.